least 1/3 of leadership needs to be female or diverse in other ways in order to really ensure that we will have eliminated or at least dealt with the issues, for example, of implicit bias, which was raised earlier. Any thoughts about that? And by the way, this is a great time to be having this discussion in view of what just happened in Detroit. We have the first woman head of a major automobile company.
Bankruptcy, and I was like, no.
No, let's put that aside. No, but you know what I read that was interesting about, is it Mara? Is that the leadership at General Motors, the leadership has at least 3 or 4 women in vice presidential roles moving up, and she, of course, was one of those. But without that, I'm not so sure that we would have had that announcement. So maybe there is something to the rule of 3 or something along those lines. Can you speak to that?
Well, I'm sorry. My first thought is few, because 6 of the 18 on the comp committee are women. So that's exactly 1/3. But I mean, I think there is a conscious effort to make sure that women are well represented on this committee, and but we also have to balance this with, because there are fewer women partners in our firm, they tend to be asked to do a lot of administrative things, and that's a good thing, but it's also sometimes a burden. So it's you have to kind of walk a line to make sure there's enough, you know, adequate representation, but at the same time not burden women with. And a lot of people call this an onerous administrative task to serve on a compensation committee. But I mean, as I look at this, I mean, some of the best leaders in our firm are on this, and our personnel partner, who's sort of head of all this, is a woman. The chair of our executive committee is a woman, and I think that when you talk to them, they will say they are, you know, kind of humbled by the roles and flattered by them, but also, you know, they had to work on so many committees coming up to get those roles. So it's an interesting sort of conundrum.
Right, and that's actually one of the slides in the materials under effective practices for compensation systems. Directly addresses that by noting that equitable credit should be given for non-billable firm work, right, to ensure that the non-billable work for the firm is valued in some way. So rather than, you know, feeling that it's onerous, that you're actually getting credit, and I haven't been in that on one of those committees, but I hope that something along those lines occurs.
Well, in our firm, it certainly does. In fact, that's a category, and I benefit from it because I have a kind of a major administrative job, and boy, they better comp me for it. It might not be dollar for dollar the same as an origination dollar, but it's important.
Do you feel there's pushback when it comes to getting credit for those types of
activities? I think it's pretty you know, apparent in our firm that origination is the most highly valued thing you can do, and so I think origination dollars, if you will, or points, maybe in